Hello, welcome to another episode of writing. Oh, fuck's sake. Hello, welcome to another episode of How to Write LGBT Characters and Why You Should Anyway. Today I want to talk about writing dead names with care. Before I start, 3 important pieces of real life advice based on this video topic. 1. Don't ask a trans person's birth name. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. It's not nice, it's not fair, and nobody will appreciate it. 2. Except in very, very specific circumstances, and let's be honest, those circumstances are very, very unlikely, so unless you've been specifically asked, don't use a trans person's birth or dead name. Also, actually, while we're on the topic, what I mean by asked is asked by said trans person or some kind of medical professional who cannot access their records because they haven't changed their name in the system. 3. If you do use a trans person's dead name, by accident hopefully, but you know, if you do use a trans person's dead name, apologise quickly, correct yourself and move on. I was talking to Steve, sorry, I mean Lily, and she said, that's it. Don't make a big deal out of it, just skip for the real name and move on. Actually, fourth one, if somebody else uses somebody's dead name and you know for a fact that this person is out and out, no questions asked, you are safe to correct that person, correct the person. Like, if your colleague has recently changed their name at work, and somebody goes, oh yeah, I was talking to Steve, and you go, it's Lily, that's good. That's what you do. They go, oh, I was talking to Steve, and you go, oh, it's Lily. Or, do you mean Lily? And they go, right, yeah, Lily. Or possibly they have a huge tantrum, at which point you realise, oh, this is not a nice person. So what is a dead name? Well, from my 4 pieces of advice, you probably have worked out that a dead name is the title given to the name that trans people are given, usually at birth, but you know, names are complicated, that they have abandoned since their transition. The reason it's called a dead name is because the name is essentially dead to the trans person. It's not their name anymore, and it's a very easy and clear way of explaining that name has no connection. Like saying birth name kind of feels like you still associate it with the trans person, and I know I have used them interchangeably in this video, and that is because that is what I, as a trans person who has changed my name, am the most comfortable with, because I do like my old name, it's just not mine, and I think I have a very complicated relationship with it, so like, it's a whole thing. Safest word to use, dead name. People have all sorts of relationships with their dead names. Some like them, some can't hear it without flinching, some are indifferent, and sometimes the relationship changes, and sometimes they are a muddled conglomerate snowball of feelings about the dead name. Like, theoretically I like it, but also when I hear it, it makes me go, me? No. I'm really glad my dead name isn't particularly common pretty much anywhere, because it does still make me flinch every time I hear it, because every time I hear it, even if it's from a character on TV, I think, oh shit, do they mean me? Which is a very stressful situation, and I'm super glad that my birth name, dead name, is very uncommon. Although it has been more common on TV in recent years. So that's fun. I've been out as non-binary, and I've been using the name Will since 2014. It's been a while, so like in the grand scheme of things, if somebody uses my birth name, my dead name, I'm kind of there like, oh, am I gonna have to come out to someone I haven't seen in, how many years has it been? 8? How many years has it been since 2014? God. Coming out is taxing, and it is especially taxing to people who knew you in the before. Because you're also there like, okay, so that's not my name anymore, and also those aren't my pronouns anymore, and also... Do you know what non-binary is? Because I've got to give you a quick lowdown. And it's taxing. Like, I can prepare for it when I go and join a new workplace or meet new people. I'm prepared for that. But if I'm just like out and about, or like back in my teenage town, visiting some family who still live there, it's like, well, I haven't seen you since I was in high school, but while we're here, I wasn't prepared. I was just wandering around the shops and you ambushed me and now I have to ambush you back about what is non-binary and how does it relate to me and how does that therefore relate to you, person I haven't seen since 2010 or before, which is 11 years because I went to a different, so anyway, that's irrelevant. So why might you want to include a character's dead name in a narrative? Well, there are many reasons. Reason number one is that the trans character comes out over the course of the narrative when we start the whatever length of story it is, whether it's a book or a book series or a TV show or a movie or whatever, I don't care. When we start, they are going by that dead name. It's still very much alive at that point. It is their name. And later they change it. This is difficult to manage, and I personally think you shouldn't do it unless you're trans. But the best practice I can think of for this is to 100% swap to their new name as soon as they claim it. Like I said, it's hard to do this well, even with that in mind, and people won't really appreciate your efforts, so it's probably safest to just not bother unless you are trans, and probably unless you're happy to be openly trans because of the world we live in, openly trans on the internet and potentially in your author bio. Because in the grand scheme of things, people will kind of expect you to be trans to be able to handle that well. And let's be honest, if you're not ready to come out to the world as trans, if you're passing as cis and you don't want to talk about it, it's probably safest, and as much as it sucks, it's probably safest for you to just not bother. Sorry, the cat has decided that my tripod is the perfect place to hide. Could you? No. Ayla. Reason number two that you might want to include a character's dead name is the inclusion of transphobia, the purposeful inclusion of transphobia. There are some reasons you might want to include transphobia. If you decide you want to, please add a content warning to the front of your novel or whatever piece of media, because otherwise you will probably be causing harm to the trans community. You just want to make it clear that this is something that they're going to have to face in this novel, because otherwise you read a trans novel thinking, yay, a trans character, and then next thing you know, they're being treated badly because they're trans, and it's like, I don't need that, I wanted escapism. 3. In an attempt to out the trans character, because you've heard someone like me say, have characters come out in the narrative. It's not the best way to out the character, just have them talk about themselves, but I'm not here to judge your reasoning. I'm here to tell you how to do it well. So it's been 10 minutes of talking, and here's how to do it well. Don't share the actual dead name, except obviously in the case of the first possible reason where you're having the trans character come out in the narrative and they use their dead name before they transition. Yeah, just don't actually share what the dead name is. And even like after your character has come out as trans, just cease all use of the dead name as it actually stands. So like, say their dead name is Alison and their new name is Jim. Ooh, Jim. So like, yeah, if say you're coming out across the narrative story is Jim, but before Jim knew that he was Jim, he was Alison and used she, her pronouns because Jim had no idea. You go for Alison, and then as soon as Jim goes, oh, I'm trans and my name's Jim, you stop using Alison and you start doing this instead. Something like, Sally hadn't heard the name in years. Her heart leapt into her throat as she glanced over her shoulder. Please let it not be someone calling for her. Please let it be for someone else. But no. Someone who looked a lot like someone Sally went to high school with was bustling towards her. This was going to be painful. And you just don't include the name. You just make allusions to it. You talk around it. You say, like when the other character's talking and they go, oh, I haven't seen you in years. Again, Sally flinched as they repeated that old name. Things like that. You just cut it out and allude to it in the actual text. If it's from somebody else's perspective, so like somebody, your main character isn't the trans person in question, they're friends with the trans person in question. We're going to use Sally again. Sally's face took on an ashen sheen. Her eyes blew wide. Bill glanced around, searching for the source of her discomfort. Someone waving animatedly, bustling towards them. Are they calling Sally that? And obviously that's from the perspective of a character who doesn't know that Sally is, or potentially knows that Sally is trans, but doesn't know what Sally's dead name is, because it's not polite to ask. So in that situation, whether they know that Sally's trans or not is kind of irrelevant. And you can have Bill ask Sally later, hey Sally, how come they were calling you something else? And again, have Bill, regardless of whether Bill knows anything about transness, have Bill not say the name. Have Bill be cautious and worried about Sally's well-being, because she looked really unwell when this person called her that, and maybe it's the name. Maybe she's lost someone with that name and it upsets her. Who knows? Bill doesn't. He's asking questions. And then that's a really great juncture to have Sally come out to Bill if she hasn't done it before, or to have Sally just casually mention, yeah, that's my dead name. And then if you want to be explanatory about this, educational about this, you can then have things like Bill go, what's a dead name? And Sally go, a dead name is the name that I had before I came out as trans. And Bill go, oh wow, that must be so hard for you to hear that, because obviously that's not you, you're Sally. It's also always really nice, if your prospective character didn't know Sally was trans to begin with, to have that moment of Sally coming out, so quite cautiously, because we usually do, not me so much, but other people usually do come out quite cautiously, and having that moment where Sally's sort of there yeah, so it's my dead name. What's a dead name? Asked Bill. Well, it's the name I had before I came out as trans. Trans. I know what that means, says Bill in his head, thinking about what is trans, if you want to put that in there. Or you can just have Bill be there I would never have guessed, you're just Sally though. Obviously, get off my foot. You're just Sally though, obviously. I don't understand how anyone could see you as anything else but Sally. That's super affirming. You should definitely put that in your book if you're going to include a dead name. Have your main character or some friend of your trans character be really supportive about the fact that there is no doubt in their brain that the trans character is who they say they are, because let's be honest, trans people are who we say we are. And it's the thing of when I have been misgendered out and about, because that happens, my wife is always the one when we come home who's there I think you look non-binary. And I'm yeah, but that's because you know. And she's yeah, but it's also because I know what to look for. And it's oh, that's nice. And sometimes I get it from friends and stuff where they're there no, you look non-binary. If I wanted to sort of figure out what non-binary looked like and I had a picture of you, I'd be there well, this person's quite clearly non-binary, because I mean, just look at that aesthetic. Non-binary aesthetic. I mean, I am wearing a 12-year-old boy's t-shirt from 1998, but it's fine. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel if you want to see more from How to Write LGBT Characters and Why You Should Anyway. Oh, hello. Deciphering writing advice. My self-publishing journey, and all things writing and queer life on this channel. Hello, baby. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram. I am at nopoodles. This thing is at notebook nibbler. Don't nibble me. I'm not a notebook. I would let you down. I would let you down, except that you keep trying to eat my tripod. Check the description box for all of the links to all of the places, including my website, where you can find out the most information about my book. If you sign up to my mailing list, you can find out even more information about my book. I only email about once a month, if I remember. And yeah, if you want to support me and what I do, there's a link to my Ko-fi account in the description below. Say bye-bye to everyone, Ava. Are you using me to climb onto a bookshelf? Because I'd really rather you didn't. Parrot cat. Whee! Look at that parrot cat! So we've had a Lara Croft interruption by my brain and a cat interruption by my cat. I can do maths. I can't hold numbers in my head for very long. I can't hold anything in my head for very long. That's why I keep looking at the script. Anyway, reason number 2 that you might want... Oh, fuck. I haven't talked to anybody but my wife in days.